NFL Christmas picks. Week 17 is here, guys. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I'm here to pick and preview the Christmas games because we have two awesome AFC matchups, potentially previewing the AFC playoffs. In this video, I'm going to pick each game straight up and versus the spread, as well as break down the total. Since it's only two games, might as well also give you an over-under pick in this video. Gronk, spike the like button. Maybe you're a Chief fan. Kelsey, spike the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more NFL content and NFL picks each and every week on the BLV. And the BLV, the L inside, stands for loyal. Merry Christmas to my loyal viewers. I love you all. Now let's pick some NFL games. Let me know in the comment section below who you're picking for these two Christmas matchups. Let's go. Let's start it off with the first game, which is the Kansas City Chiefs at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And just so you guys are aware, before we even get to that, my full Week 17 picks will be available on Thursday. I'm going to do a separate video. This is just for the Christmas games. Separate video Thursday, typically out on Wednesday, but that's Christmas, so it will be out on Boxing Day for my fellow Canadians. All right, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The total is 44. The Chiefs are favored by 2.5 on the road at Pittsburgh. Now, the question here, the biggest question is, do the Chiefs have holy magic or devil magic? Will the Pittsburgh Steelers be able to overcome it in this game at home? I'm just playing around, but taking a look at the injury report, I think it's pretty significant to understand that Chris Jones might not play in this game, and that completely changes the handicap for this game. If Chris Jones plays, I feel fairly confident that the Steelers will lose. If Chris Jones does not play, I feel decent about a potential Steeler upset. I think it swings that much in favor of the Steelers, seeing as how the Steelers will be healthier for this matchup. They'll have their number one receiver, George Pickens. The Steelers are a good football team at home. The Steelers have great edge rushers to potentially disrupt Patrick Mahomes. I don't think the Chiefs will be able to run the ball all that well. And I will say that without Chris Jones, it does maybe allow the Steelers to run the ball better than expected because the Chiefs have been excellent stopping the run. And I understand that Chris Jones has been a little bit up and down throughout his career as a run defender, but it would certainly help for him to not be in the game, especially when it comes to the Steelers. One of their biggest weaknesses is their offensive line. So that is a major question mark that almost does not allow you to really bet this game until the start of the game and understanding if he's in or out. That being said, it does kind of feel like he's more did not practice on Sunday, Monday, or that's at least how he's listed. I mean, did these teams even practice? It's an extremely short week. We talk about Thursday being a short week. Wednesday's even more ridiculous, but it's designated as a limited practice on Tuesday. So he's questionable. We'll see. Jawan Taylor also questionable. I expect him to play. DJ Humphries is out, and Connor, one of their third or fourth safeties, plays in rotation, is out as well with a concussion. Everybody else appears to be in for the Chiefs, as well as Marquise Hollywood Brown, who saw action last week. That definitely helps the Chiefs receiving core just in terms of depth. We saw him get a few targets in the first matchup, and I really am rising on the Chief offense. Like the Chiefs offense the last couple of weeks, I just feel like the passing game has more rhythm, more function. It feels like there's more rhyme and reason within their play calling. It feels like they now understand how to use Worthy. He's become like this little bit of a gadget guy, but a lot of short passes, get the ball in his hands, use his quickness, use his speed, use his yak ability, and then the occasional deep shot. But Worthy has become the engine of the passing game, if you guys have noticed, kind of replacing Rashee Rice 11 targets the last 2 weeks, and he's been catching a lot of footballs. He's also been running the football. So I think that has really changed the way the Chiefs have operated offensively. They're a high success rate, right? Low explosive offense. They're going to move the ball. They're going to control the ball. And against Pittsburgh, a team that's going to rush the quarterback, they're looking for turnovers. They're looking for sacks. They're looking for negatives. They're looking for big plays. They're facing an offense that doesn't allow you to have a lot of negative plays because Mahomes protects the ball very well. He's very good at managing the game. He doesn't really allow you to sack him very often. And so I would be genuinely surprised if the Chiefs did not control this game through the short passing game. I don't think they're really going to be able to run the ball that well, but dinking and dunking their way down the field should be an efficient approach for the Chiefs against the Steeler defense. I've seen it happen many years, with Tom Brady and the Patriots, where the Steelers' defense and their scheme and their identity has always been through their pass rush and not their secondary, and the ability to pick apart their zones is possibility here. But that being said, the Steelers have been more of a man team. Joey Porter Jr. has been a big part of that. He is going to be out for this game, which I think is a huge difference maker just in terms of DeAndre Hopkins, Worthy, Brown. Any one of these 3 guys could have a good game here. It does feel like there's a couple players out for the Steelers, but the biggest of the bunch being Joey Porter. That being said, Larry Ogunjobi will be back. He didn't play last week. Dante Jackson will be back. He's one of their corners. He's played really well this year. He could be a good matchup potentially for Worthy, and Deshaun Elliott should be back at safety. He's been excellent for them this year. So they will be a lot healthier. Pickens is back on offense, changes the entire complexion of their offense. So I think the Steelers won't be able to run the ball too well. If Chris Jones is out, maybe that opens the door for more success for Najee. I think that their best success would be loading up with multi-tight end formations, throwing the ball to their tight ends, because the Chiefs have been the worst defense against tight ends this year. Trying to find somebody like Calvin Austin down the field against the number 2 and number 3 corners of the Chiefs and try to avoid Trent McDuffie. I do think Pickens can make some plays in this game for sure. He's a beast. He's an animal. I actually kind of don't mind how the Steelers offense matches up with the Chiefs as long as Russ doesn't turn it over. He might hold the ball a little too long, which is where the pressure could get home. But I think that guys like Calvin Austin, Pat Freiermuth, Jalen Warren can have success in the passing game. And Arthur Smith is well equipped in terms of his offensive screening, throwing those blitzes off balance, being able to do some things there. So I think this is a really intriguing matchup. I think that the Steelers actually don't match up that poorly against the Chiefs. It's really going to come down to how effectively can they limit the yards after catch. That's what I think the game is going to come down to for Pittsburgh. If they can limit yards after catch through the air, I think they have a chance, because the Chiefs I don't think are really going to be able to run the ball super successfully. Pacheco's been lackluster since he's returned. Hunt is not an explosive back, right? So I lean Chiefs here, especially at 2.5, but I do feel like if Chris Jones is out, the line is warranted. With all the additions to the Steelers, I think the best way to play this is probably the Steelers in a teaser, maybe teasing it up to 8.5, because I definitely feel this is going to be a one-score, gritty, grinded-out football game. Both teams are going to be beat up and banged up. The Steelers were wise looking ahead to this game, understanding it was on Netflix, on Christmas, understanding that they needed to be healthy for this game. They kind of bypassed the Ravens game and let some guys rest a little bit, and they're almost treating like this game as a bigger deal, kind of oddly enough. The total is 44. I would lean towards the under. Although, the Chiefs' offense has been a lot better, and the Steelers do have some explosion in their offense when George Pickens is there, and the Chiefs have had a tendency this season to give up some deep passes down the field. But I think that Spagnuolo will be smart in how he defends Russell Wilson. He saw him in Denver. I think he'll understand that he needs to keep the top on the defense. He needs to blitz him occasionally, and he needs to stop the run. I think that I would lean towards the under in a Chiefs-Steeler matchup, because I just feel that the defenses are more reliable, better units overall. So I would lean under. I would also go Chiefs to win, Chiefs to cover, but I'm not confident about it, especially if Chris Jones is out. I can see a possibility for an upset. I definitely see it, because I think if Russell Wilson can moonball to Calvin Austin and George Pickens, anything can happen. Russ is also, I think, beaten the Chiefs maybe once or twice in his career, with Denver, with Seattle, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's happened. So it's possible. I definitely think that Steelers in Pittsburgh on Christmas, It's a lot to overcome for the Chiefs on a short week. So we'll see. I'm going to go with the Chiefs here, but I am very cautious about it. I would not bet on the Chiefs. I really wouldn't in this game. I think that this is a chance for the books to make a lot of money on the underdog Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. I wouldn't be shocked if they came out on top. I think my favorite play would be a teaser with Pittsburgh. That's just my personal opinion. My pick officially will be the Chiefs. So I could see them winning by 3 or 4, let's just say. 2.5 is a tricky number. That indicates to me that Chris Jones will be out. All right, so that's the first game. That's the first matchup. Looking forward to the second game. We have the Baltimore Ravens and the Houston Texans. I think this would have been an absolutely stellar game if both teams were fully healthy. Tank Dell obviously injured last week. That kind of took the air out of the sails for the Texans in that potential upset against the Chiefs where they were going toe-to-toe with Kansas City. That game was in Arrowhead, right, guys? So just remember, this game for Kansas City is not going to be in Arrowhead. It's going to be in Pittsburgh. That changes some things mathematically in our equation, right? But for the Texans, they'll be back at home. They're not in Arrowhead. They're back in the comfort of their own dome. They played Baltimore in the playoffs last year. They got obliterated. It was in Baltimore. That's outdoors. Texans inside. Stroud tends to play better at home. I will say that in terms of the injuries, the Texans did not have Fatu Kazi. He was out. Shaq Mason, he did not participate. And Juice Scruggs did not participate. That's potentially a starter against the run defense for Fatu Kazi. Didn't play last week either. Shaq Mason and Juice Scruggs, both guys did not participate. Both are potentially starters for the offensive line. Shaq is a definite right guard starter. Scruggs is at times been a starter, at times not been a starter. Limited Danico Autry, John Mechie, Will Anderson, Christian Harris all played last week. They will be playing this week as well. For the Ravens, intriguing is Zay Flowers. He has a shoulder injury. That changes the calculus. If Zay Flowers does not play, completely changes everything. I would actually say, to go to the degree of saying, if Zay Flowers does not play in this game with Nelson Aguilar already concussed and not playing, and Justice Hill also not playing, that if Zay Flowers does not play, I would say that the Ravens probably lose this game outright. I'm not going to even lie about that. I think that, with only Rashad Bateman being your legitimate receiver, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely being the only legitimate options to throw the ball to, that extremely limits your offense and what you could put that out there from a personnel perspective, right? So Zay Flowers and Chris Jones are two huge injuries to pay attention to. I think this game is interesting because Baltimore on the surface should blow out the Texans because the Ravens are an explosive team, and when they win big. Now, typically, that's at home. I will say that. And this could be a game where the Ravens just played the Steelers. It's a physical football game. It's a brutal black and blue contest. They could be worn down, worn out. They could potentially not have the same sort of vigor and energy that you would expect from a Ravens team week in and week out. I would also say that given the kickers, Fairbairn has been absolutely phenomenal from 50 plus this year, while Justin Tucker has struggled with distance. That is just a small edge, I would say, for the Texans in that regard. I think the Ravens should be able to run the ball pretty successfully with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in this game. But seeing as how they played them in the playoffs last year, Houston, they should be better prepared for that run game of Lamar Jackson. Now they have to be prepared for Derrick Henry, a guy that's historically had the Texans' number. But last year, if I'm not mistaken, they really shut him down, and it was hard for Derrick Henry to do anything against the Texans. So at least they're familiar with both Lamar and Derrick Henry and the entities that they are. Very rare players, right? So D'Amico will be familiar as well as some of these players. I also think that the athleticism and motor of Hunter and Anderson helps them contain the edge against Lamar Jackson. Their corners are really, really low-key, really awesome. Like Stingley is elite. He can slow down Zay Flowers. And Lassiter is a really good matchup for Rashad Bateman. Both guys are about the same size, can run similarly. He's got similar length. It's a really good body-to-body matchup in terms of the corner versus receiver. The more that I think about it, I think the Texans have a chance in this game, because the one thing that scares me is the run offense of the Ravens, because the Texans have been more susceptible to the run this year than the pass. And then the other thing that scares me is the offensive line of the Texans, because they have Shaq Mason injured, Juice Scruggs injured. They've got injuries and they're already not playing well. But the Ravens don't exactly have an amazing pass rush. That being said, the Ravens defense has been the best in football since week 10. just across the board in EPA. So they have been way better. They have been on the incline. They have been on the rise defensively. Their secondary has been a lot more in shape since Kyle Hamilton moved to safety. But I do think that Nico Collins is a really tough matchup for the Ravens because they don't really have one guy that can slow him down one-on-one. Maybe Marlon Humphrey, but he's been playing in the nickel spot a lot. So Nico could have a big game. I don't think the Texans will be able to run the ball reliably in this game, and I don't know who's going to step up at wide receiver. John Mechie. They just signed Deontay Johnson. I don't know how familiar he'll be with the playbook. Like Dalton Schultz, is he going to be that guy that steps up and converts the chains on third down? They need another guy to get open. That being said, the Ravens like to play a lot of zone, so that should help CJ Stroud, because if he has to play against a lot of man, that's going to hurt these wide receivers where they have to separate and win their matchups. This one's tough. I kind of want to go with the Ravens to win, but the Texans to cover the more that I think about it. But it like something, the 5.5 is tricky. Like I kind of want to pick the Ravens both ways. If I'm not, I don't want to lie about that. But like the more I think about it, I think that the Texans will be absolutely pumped at home. Beyonce's doing the halftime show. Like D'Amico's going to have a good game plan for Lamar Jackson. I think CJ is going to play up to the level that he needs to. The whole Tank Dell thing kind of threw them off last week. I thought they were playing pretty good, especially offensively. I thought their O-line was playing better. They're playing a pass rush that isn't dynamic. I'm not really scared of it. So that's an area that I think helps the Texans here. I think they stay in the game. They've played really well against good opponents at home. They've played really well against Detroit. They played really well against Buffalo. The Ravens fall in that category. I'm not sure that I quite believe in the Ravens on the road to blow the Texans out. I'm not to that degree. Maybe they win by 6 or 7. Maybe they win by 10. That's entirely possible. But I think the Texans will come with more energy. I'm expecting a Texans team to come with more fight. Just because they've had a little bit of a longer rest. They played on Saturday, right? I think, or did both teams play on Saturday? So I'm mistaken there. Both teams played on Saturday. But I think the advantage of being at home and the advantage of not playing the Steelers, I think is also a factor. And then potentially Zay Flowers being out is a huge thing. So I'll say this. If Zay Flowers plays, I'll go Ravens to win, Ravens to cover. If Zay Flowers does not play, I think the Texans might win this game, but I'm definitely taking them to cover. So pay attention to that. This game will be interesting. You know what? Let's just make it simple. I'm going to go Ravens to win, Texans to cover. I know I was back and forth. In terms of the total, I would lean towards the under because I think if the Texans stay in this game, I think it's an under. I think it's in the 20s, but I don't know if it's quite 46. 46.5 is a really good number because this could easily be 27, 20, 20, 24, 21. But I think the Texans will be well prepared here for defensively for the Ravens. Maybe I'm wrong. This is tough, man. These picks are not easy. I would definitely not make these picks like best bets or anything like that. So it's interesting. I don't know, man. I don't think Azeez Al-Shaair is back yet. I don't think he's back yet. I think he's only missed 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. So he played against the Jags. Let's just check. I want to check that because I'm not sure. That also makes a difference. Like the Texans have been dealing with a lot of injuries. I'm going to check some stuff here just before I confirm my picks for you guys. So they played Jacksonville. They had a bye. Then they played Miami. So yeah, he needs to serve one more game. So that's a factor. That's a factor. I thought he was out anyways. Jimmy Ward was placed on IR. That's another factor. I was double checking that. That was 7 hours ago. So looking at they don't have Fatu Kazi. They don't have Tank Dell. Yeah, I think I got to go Ravens to win, Ravens to cover, just because the Texans are a little bit too beat up. But I don't think we're going to get the best Ravens effort either. So I kind of feel like it's going to be an under. And the Ravens win and cover, which is odd. Maybe the under is the best look in the game. I don't know. I just feel like both teams are beat up, and this is going to be tough to watch a little bit, maybe. I think the other game might be a little bit more entertaining just from a value standpoint. The Texans need to get healthier entering the playoffs. But yeah, that's going to be the pick, guys. We're going to go under 46.5. We're going to go Ravens to win, Ravens to cover. Nasty football game. We'll see how it goes. You guys let me know in the comment section below what you think about the Christmas games, who you're picking. Thank you so much. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your families. We'll see you later. Thursday will be best bets and my picks. All right? Best bets and my picks for the rest of the games. Deuces.